My husband left me right before I gave birth to attend his sister's lavish wedding. I ruined her marriage and exposed her lies. I am 35. I have been married for 7 years. My husband's name is Andrew. He is 39. We have a 5-year-old daughter and I am currently 7 months pregnant. The main reason I am writing here is simply to be listened to. My husband has always been close to his family, and when we were dating, it didn't bother me. His family was always nice to me, but soon after we got married, I realized that he was really close to his mother and sister, like they had their own club. It didn't affect our relationship as a couple, and I just rolled my eyes when I saw them hanging out and didn't pay attention. At any event or party, they would sit together and criticize others. At first, they tried to involve me in their fun, but I am not a fan of idle chatter, so I stayed away. However, they did not cause me any inconvenience, and I did not touch them either. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law were not particularly warm to me, and I therefore tried to stay away. I also avoided them as much as I could. I don't really like discussing people behind their backs, and then pretending to smile in their faces. When I got pregnant with my first child, I stopped going to my in-laws. First, I was looking for an excuse to distance myself from them. Second, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were toxic. My husband was kind and caring, but now God knows what happened to him when he met his mother and sister. It was like he turned into a different person. As long as my husband behaved civilly at home and treated me well, I didn't care what he did with those 2 or 3 hours with them on weekends. I gave him this space. When my daughter turned 3, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law wanted to turn her against me, saying that she was a bad mother, but she fought back and she cried and said that she was a good mother. Then she came home and told me about it. My husband laughed and said they must have been teasing the child, but I knew what their real intentions were. From that time on, I never left my daughter alone with these evil women again. Things started to get worse last year when my sister-in-law started dating a wealthy businessman from Scotland. It was understandable that she was overjoyed to have found such a man, but I wondered why my husband was so excited about it. To give some context, my father-in-law is long retired and lives in the countryside. I have only met him a few times, and unlike the others, he doesn't tolerate nonsense. Maybe that's why he left, for peace. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law are unemployed and survive on rent from one of the family apartments and assistance from my father-in-law. My husband also allocates part of his salary to my mother. I have always been financially independent, and I do not object to Andrew helping his mother. Back to the main point. Since my sister-in-law started dating this rich man, her behavior has completely changed for the worse. She imagined herself as a princess. At family holidays or other events, she constantly boasted about expensive gifts from her boyfriend. My sister-in-law never missed an opportunity to show everyone how rich her boyfriend was. My mother-in-law was also in awe. They giggled with my sister-in-law like teenagers. Their behavior irritated me, and my displeasure was clearly visible on my face. It wasn't that I was jealous of them. Why would I be? The problem was that since they had always lived in a modest budget, they didn't allow themselves to go beyond the limits because they had nothing to break out. But with the advent of a new love, they both began to simply mock me and accuse me of being jealous of them. Of course, they didn't say it to my face, but they made it clear with their gestures, and some relatives confirmed my suspicions. I soon became pregnant with my second child, and thank God they saved me from having to go to them. Andrew insisted that I let Sarah go to alone with them, but Sarah refused. I am only 5 years old, but she doesn't want to talk to them anymore. I know someone might accuse me of turning my daughter against her mother-in-law and sister-in-law, but believe me, children have better senses than adults. They can feel the difference between love and falsehood. My first pregnancy was difficult. I was on bed stress, but they never came to visit me. My second pregnancy was easier, but now they came often. Not to find out how I am, but to show off my new jewelry collection or $1,000 bag. My sister-in-law is just going crazy about how rich her boyfriend is, and she was talking about how they were planning a grand wedding in Scotland, at sea. I just nodded with a strange smile and thought to myself that it was good. A week ago, they suddenly came to my house and started praising my cooking. My sister-in-law said that she really liked my apple pie and donuts. Instead of being happy, I was very. I asked them why they suddenly remembered the dessert I baked for many years ago. They were clearly confused that instead of thanking me for the good, kind words, I would get straight to business. She said that she had been dreaming of my cake for a long time, but no restaurant could make it because it was me. So they wanted me to bake it. I thanked them and told them that I was feeling well and baking required extra effort, which I couldn't afford with a small child and while pregnant. They didn't want to accept the refusal and insisted that I make a cake for her anyway. I couldn't argue any further and say that I would come back when I felt better. My sister-in-law hugged me for the first time after the wedding. I said she would pick him up on Sunday. I didn't say anything and didn't clarify one on Sunday. Honestly, I wasn't going to cook anything. I just said I was trying to avoid conflicts at this moment. By midweek, I was so exhausted from being pregnant and taking care of Sarah that I had completely forgotten about the conversation. Friday night at dinner, Andrew said he would be busy on over the weekend, and his sister-in-law was hosting a dinner for her boyfriend and his family. I was in shock at that moment. Everything became clear to me. Their sudden visit and praise. The request to bake a pie and donuts on Sunday. So I know that the best pie is something you can only try. I am really good at this, but that doesn't mean that I can fall into their trap. I told him about their visit and their request to bake a pie. Andrew said that their Scottish family has a sweet tooth and they had always dreamed about trying a real American pie. Andrew almost blurted out that her sister had boasted that she could bake the best American pie and had promised to treat this family to it. I was shocked. I told Andrew that I wasn't going to work in my condition so that someone else could get all the credit for my efforts, especially since they didn't even invite me. He replied that I was 7 months pregnant and his mother thought I would be uncomfortable and that's why they didn't invite me. Even if I assume their intentions were poor, which they weren't, why didn't they tell me when they came to ask me to cook? He just shrugged and said he didn't know. On Saturday he went to pick up his father and said he would be on Sunday evening after dinner. I wanted to make a fuss but chose peace of mind, knowing that no matter what I did he would not stop attending this event. On Sunday I deliberately turned off my phone and locked myself in the room with Sarah. I assumed they were trying to reach me and when they couldn't they left voicemails. I ignored them. Although I didn't feel good knowing that they were cursing me there, I was still glad that I didn't give in to their demands. Monday morning, when I turned on my phone, it was flooded with voicemail and missed calls. It all started with a request and ended with curses. As soon as they got the message that I read, they called me right away. It was the longest monologue I'd ever heard. I always knew her evil nature, but at that moment I saw the real her. She accused me of ruining her dinner and called me a witch. It turned out they thought I would cook everything and so they didn't cook anything and didn't order dessert. My sister-in-law wanted to impress her future relatives by passing off my dessert as hers. As a result, the Scots left the dinner without dessert and with the feeling of disappointment. And do you know who was blamed? Of course me. While she cursing me, I imagined their funny faces at the table. I thought if it was such a problem, why didn't they order something from their restaurant? Yes, I know she was bragging about her cooking skills, but a cake from the restaurant could have saved the day. Anyway, it's not my problem. I thought this my mother-in-law and hung up. Among all their messages, there was one late message from Andrew where he said he would not back in the evening, but only on Monday after work. When he got home, he was quiet but not angry. I tried to tell him what his mother had said to me, but he cut me off and said he didn't want to get involved in the situation. He said I was just lucky he didn't scold me for embracing his family last night and I shouldn't expect him to be on my side against his family. I lost my patience here. His word to his mother and sister didn't particularly bother me, but what the hell is he doing? First of all, he shouldn't have supported me when his family didn't invite me to dinner. How could I be to blame for the failure of the event that I wasn't even invited to? We haven't spoken since neither he nor I have made any attempts to fix it. Although I feel with my mind that it's over with him, somewhere deep down I continue to torment myself with thoughts. Did I really ruin their reputation by refusing to fulfill their request? Hello everyone, it's been 2 months since my first post. I am now in my 14th week and I am almost ready to give birth. After this incident I realized that I was too patient with my husband. 2 weeks afterwards that I had to go for ultrasound and he accompanied me. On the way back I tried to discuss it but he said I needed to put it behind me and focus on my health. At the time, I took it as a good sign that he wasn't holding any grudges. However, deep down, I felt he was hiding something. And today, when I woke up and saw that he was packing his things, I got cold from this sign and almost shouted at him why he was packing his things. He said that he was going to Scotland for his sister's wedding. I was speechless. When he did this happen, I bombarded him with questions. When he was due date, why wasn't I informed? And most importantly, how could he leave me alone before giving birth? He was trying his best to avoid questions or answer with one word. I told him that he couldn't avoid me. I was angry, offended, upset and shocked at the same time. Just imagine your husband leaving you the day before you gave birth. I couldn't describe my feelings. I won't lie, I couldn't stay calm. I grabbed his shoulder and demanded an explanation. He said that everything was decided at the last moment and that he had to go. The future relatives insisted on this date and he couldn't do anything. Of course he could do anything. He could not to go to his sister's wedding. While we were in the middle of an argument, the doorbell rang. He ran to open it as if he was waiting for someone. It was his mother. She burst into the house shouting that my husband was late. She took his bags out of the room saying that he didn't need to take much because he could buy everything he needed in Scotland. At that moment I wanted to hit her. When she started laughing in my face, I realized it was too late to stop. So I went back to the room, threw out the rest of his luggage and locked the room. I heard my mother-in-law cursing me and soon they left. Then I realized why Andrew had been like this for the last month. I thought he was tearing himself apart from me and his family, and it hurt me so much, both mentally and physically. I just burst into tears. This house woke Sarah up. She hugged me and said that everything would be fine and that I should be happy because we were going to have a baby soon. Her innocent words melted my heart and I hugged her. We spent the day playing in bed. I tried to distract myself, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get the fact that he had dumped me at such a moment out of my mind. I called my sister and asked her to stay with me tomorrow because I don't know when labor will start. Hi everyone, it's been a few months since I had my son. So day after my post I went on Facebook and saw Andrew happily posting a photo of himself and his family vacationing in Scotland. I burst into tears. It was night and Sarah was asleep. I went to the bathroom to let out my emotions. I cried for an hour. It was the verge of fainting when I realized my father had broken. Barely crawled into the living room to call an ambulance. I don't remember much of what happened next. The next thing I remember is being taken to the hospital. When I came to, I started calling for Sarah. The nurse said they found Sarah crying next to me while I was coming to and going from consciousness. The person was sitting up from with the orderly. I felt relieved that my daughter was safe. Shortly after arriving, I gave birth to my son. The nurse said they wanted to contact my husband, but his number was unavailable. My sister arrived in the morning. She lives 200 kilometers away. When my sister found out about this, she scolded me for not telling her sooner. I thought I still had one more day. She also told me to break up with Andrew immediately. Because I was found in this condition, the doctors called the police. The police asked me if I had suffered from domestic violence. I told them the truth that here was no physical violence, but here was moral and emotional violence. Because he put 3 lives at risk, mine, Sarah's and my son. I was scared to think what could have happened if I hadn't been able to call the hospital. 2 days later I was discharged. At that time my parents came to see me. They live 4,000 kilometers away from me. They wanted to sue him and his family for moral damages. While I was in the hospital they took my clothes from the house. I didn't want to stay with Andrew anymore. Who would want a man like that? After discharge, I returned to my hometown with my mother and sister. A week after giving birth, he returned. Judging by his Facebook, they extended their vacation to explore Scotland. I was surprised how he could be so calm, not worrying about the fact that his wife was about to give birth. He didn't even contact me during that time. I didn't bother him either because I planned to ruin his life and that of his family. When he came home after a week later, he saw an empty house, divorce papers, and charges filed by the police. He had a week to go to the police. He panicked and called me 100 times. I won't lie, I enjoyed his calls and pleading voicemails. After that, his family wanted to contact me and asked to talk. I told my parents about it. They called Andrew and asked him to come to us. He came right away with his mother. My parents yelled at them for threatening my life and threatened to destroy their lives. Andrew wanted to talk to me alone. He literally begged me for reconciliation and forgiveness. He emotionally manipulated me, saying that you can leave a child without a father and live happiness. I asked what gender our second child was, and he felt silent. The child was born a week ago and he didn't even know about it. Do you think he needs such a father? His mother also asked for forgiveness, saying that problems with the law would ruin their reputation in front of their new relatives. I didn't care. I laughed at their excuses. When they were finally asked to leave, they suddenly wanted to look at their son, but I didn't want them to see him. My father kicked them out. In the meanwhile, I contacted my sister-in-law's husband through social networks. I introduced myself since we had never met before. To my surprise, he also thought that everything was not clean here, because they didn't invite me to the family banquet and wedding using the excuse of my pregnancy. I told him everything. He said he was shocked to see how calm Andrew was, knowing that his wife was going to give birth soon. Also, although it was late, he asked me about my sister-in-law. I told him everything about her character, and also about the apple pie. He said that her behavior was suspicious, but now everything became clear. It turns out they said that she was a chief and her mother supported the lie and said that they have their own chain of restaurants. I told him the truth that his new wife had never even boiled an egg. He called her a gold digger who only wanted money and promised to keep our conversation a secret. I said I didn't care if he told. In fact, I really wanted them to know it was me. It'd been 10 months. I just got divorced and got a good alimony considering his neglect of me and the kids. I also got a share in the house because I gave some of the money. I gave Andrew an ultimatum that he had to buy out my share in 3 months, or I would sell it to the house and auction. Plus, I get child support. Shortly after talking to my sister-in-law's husband, she called me and said that I had ruined her life. It turned out that her husband had investigated her family. It turned out that they were not as rich as they said, and also revealed her lies about her profession and many other things. Later, his husband sent her back home and filed for divorce. She was accused of theft. It turns out that she had been stealing money from their safe and giving it to her mother. Her husband called her a gold digger because she had swindled him out of thousands of dollars while they were dating. I enjoyed that gossip while drinking a glass of wine. I hope their family will have a happy life in poverty.